Greetings of the day to all of you. As we have discussed in our previous lecture, I have started the point of barriers to communication, in which we have discussed about the barriers. The barriers are nothing but these are the impediments which are going to hamper the flow of communication. Okay, as we know that in the process of communication, how the sender, receiver, channel, feedback, encoding, decoding, how these kinds of elements which are going to play a very significant role. And whenever the sender he wants to send one kind of message to the receiver, so why that message is not received by the receiver? Okay, so there were the various kinds of flows in the flow of communication in which we know about whenever we have the different kind of understanding level. So because of that various kinds of understanding level, why we are also unable to present our message in a very proper way, why here the process of encoding and decoding is not clear, then how the language, whenever our messages are not clear, whenever we are using improper sequence, clustering information, okay, lack of knowledge, illegible handwriting, mistrust, whenever we also found the noise disturbances, okay, power failure. Okay, so this was related with what is my barrier. Then later on we have discussed about whenever we are going to study about the physical and the environmental barrier. So related with the environmental barrier, we have studied about how one kind of environmental barrier is going to happen because of the external disturbances. Okay, so with the related with the external disturbances, we have discussed about whenever we are listening a various kind of noise. It can be the loud sound of any one of the music, or it can be also the loud sound of any one of the instruments. Okay, or it can be also one kind of sound that we use to listen. Okay, so it can be the sound of vehicle. So because of this, all the external disturbances, whatever kinds of thoughts, whatever kinds of messages, here our speaker or the sender, he wants to send to his audience or to his reader, they are not getting. Okay, so related with this point, I have given one example to you. In that example, we have seen that whenever, if any one of the learner, he is giving a presentation in the classroom. Also, while giving a presentation, if we found that in that room, if there is a high temperature, okay, so because of that high temperature, here that learner he is going to feel the discomfort. Okay, so like the external disturbances, whenever we have the various kinds of environmental distractions. Okay, so because of these environmental distractions, also how it is going to create a one kind of barrier in the flow of communication. And as we know that whenever the human beings they have physical disabilities, for example, whenever we have a one kind of headache, okay, so like the headache, whenever we have a stomach ache, or whenever we have a blindness, dumbness, deafness, we are not able to speak. Whenever we are also not able to listen it in a very proper way. Whenever we are also not able to sleep in a very proper way. Okay, so these are various kinds of physical disabilities, and because of all the physical disabilities here, whatever kinds of ideas here our sender he wants to share, so these ideas are not clear to the receiver. Okay, then I have given another example to us. In that example, we found that whenever any one of the learner, whenever he is feeling the extreme tiredness, so because of that feeling of the because of feeling of that extreme tiredness, how he is unable to concentrate his complete mind toward the study. Then another example I have also put in front of you. In that example, whenever in an auditorium light goes, okay, and the microphones are not working, so then we are unable to listen whatever ideas here the speaker he wants to share with us. So we are not able to listen. So this was all related with the physical or the environmental barrier. Is it clear to you? Yes. Physical or environmental barrier, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Then later on, we have started the second barrier in the fourth flow of the communication. So we can call to this barrier as a mechanical barrier, and at the same time, the another name this is also given to this kind of barrier. So we can call to this barrier as an external barrier. Okay, and we have discussed whenever any kind of defects is happening. Okay, any kind of defect is happening in the device, whatever kind of device which we are using. For example, if I'm using the mobile, okay, if I found any kind of defects in my mobile, okay, if we are using the printer, and if we found any kind of error in the printer, okay, so these kinds of barriers which are not controlled within the receiver as well as within the not control of the sender, okay. So this kind of barrier, whenever one kind of defect that is happening in the machine, so because of the defects, whatever kind of message here our speaker he wants to send to our receiver, so they are not getting this kind of message in a very proper way. Then I have also given a one kind of example to you, especially in the eras of 1980, 85. People used to watch the cricket matches on the black and white TV. And whenever they were observing one kind of rolling image on their TV, so at that time they used to go on their terrace and they were doing the movement of their antenna. So this was nothing but it was also one of the example of how here one kind of mechanical barrier that is going to happen. Then another example I have also given to you, whenever there is a one kind of power failure, okay, failure of the loudspeaker, okay. So then at that time also we are also unable to listen it. We are also unable to grasp that message in a very proper way. So that's why to overcome on a one kind of mechanical barrier, what exactly here we want to do. So here to overcome on a one kind of mechanical barrier, we need to increase the level of understanding related with the machines, how to handle the various kinds of equipments, various kinds of machines, okay, in our coming future. So whenever we are living in the industry in our coming future, whenever we are going to work, so while working in that industry, it will be our work that we should have the sufficient kind of knowledge about how to use the machines. So that's why whenever we have the lack of adequate knowledge and the lack of skills, then at that time, this kind of mechanical barrier is going to happen. So that's why we want to take care about that. This kind of mechanical barrier should not happen. After the mechanical barrier, we have started a very interesting kind of barrier. So we can call to this barrier as a personal or the socio-psychological barrier. So as I said you in our previous lecture that Psychology is a very interesting kind of subject. Okay, whenever you go, whether you want to start your own business or whether you want to join any one of the reputed company. So while joining that any one of the reputed company, here to understand the psychology of your customer, to understand the psychology of your manager, to understand the psychology of your CEOs. Okay, so this kind of understanding is very important. Okay, so the psychology is not only important for the teacher, but it is also important for the scientist, for the researcher, for engineer, for the common man also. Okay, for the shopkeeper, for auto wala, for farmer. So whenever you go, it can be your personal life, it can be your academic life. So whenever you go, so we found that the psychology is a very interesting kind of subject. Okay, so psychology, it is related with our whatever kind of things that we are going to do. So why the various kinds of problems that are happening in our day-to-day life? So these kinds of various kinds of problems are happening in our day-to-day life. So the basic reason, okay, behind all these problems is nothing but here it is a one kind of defective thinking and the wrong mindset. Whenever we have a one kind of defective thinking and at the same time whenever we have the wrong kind of mindset. Okay, so the socio-psychological barrier is nothing but here all the problems which are going to happen in the communication and all these problems which are happening because of the defective thinking and the wrong mindset. Okay, from our childhood days, so many things which are inculcated within ourselves. You don't go in that particular area. Okay, you don't meet to these people. So this is nothing but these are all the things which are inculcated in our mind from our school days. So this is nothing but it is a one kind of wrong kind of mindset. Okay, this is nothing but it is a one kind of defective thinking that is inculcated in our mind from our childhood days. So whenever the various kinds of problems which are going to happen in the flow of communication, and these problems which are happening because of the defective thinking and the wrong mindset. So that is called as the psychological barrier. So the basic reason behind happening of one kind of socio-psychological barrier, that is a lack of interest and the concentration. So that's why we need to increase our level of our confidence. We should have a one kind of interest whenever we are going to work. And as we have discussed that whenever we are emotionally disturbed, okay, whenever various kinds of feelings are there in our mind, it can be the feeling of sadness, it can be also one kind of feeling of fear, anger, anxiety. Okay, so at that time we are not able to understand any one of the message in a very proper way. At that time we are unable to uh, concentrate or to focus on the message that is given to us by the sender. So that's why whenever we feel depressed, whenever we feel that we are emotionally disturbed, so at that time we used to listen the various kinds of songs. Okay, then the another reason that is going to happen for the social psychological barrier, that in our society we found that so many people are there, they don't want to change, they don't want to accept the whatever kinds of new changes are happening. Okay, so they are not able to update themselves. Okay, they don't want to accept the new changes, whatever kinds of new changes are happening. It can be the change related with the technology. Okay, or it can be any one of the change related with the personality. So these persons, they are not ready to accept the changes. Then it is going to create a one kind of obstacle, it is going to create a one kind of problem, okay, in their life, because they don't want to change. That's why one kind of social psychological barrier is going to happen with them. Then we have also discussed about that whenever the people they are only just thinking only about themselves, like whenever they are thinking only about the word I and me. Okay, so these words, I and me, these are not so good words. So those persons who are egoist, they, if someone is trying to place to them, so they like it very much. So that's why whenever the people just they are thinking only about themselves, like the I and me. Okay, and these kinds of people they also don't feel in they are also going to feel a one kind of inferiority or to take a one kind of guidance from someone. Okay, if they are taking a one kind of guidance from someone at that time, they are going to feel that it is going to hurt to their ego. So that's why whenever the closed mind people are there, people are working in any one of the organization, in any one of the institutions. So at that time, we know that how they are going to create a one kind of problem in the flow of the communication. So that's why a one kind of open discussion is always welcome whenever you want to work in any one of the company in your coming future. We want to be open-minded. Whatever is in our mind, we want to just open it, open our ideas, open our thoughts, open our whatever kinds of new notions are there. Okay, so the opening of our mind is going to be very helpful to us. So that's why whenever the various kinds of people they are working in any one of the company, and whenever the mind is a closed mind, then automatically it is going to create a one kind of obstacle or the hurdle in the flow of the communication. Then, like the closed mind, there are the various kinds of prejudices which are also in our mind. Okay, here we know that various kinds of people are there. They are going to just to the people in the advance whenever you are meeting to someone. So while only in your first meeting here, the people they start to judge you. They are trying to create a one kind of various kinds of presumptions in their mind regarding to you. Okay, they are creating various kinds of views in your mind, whether that person is positive or whether that person is negative. So they are trying to doubt on everyone's intention. So whenever these kinds of people they are working in any one of the company or in any one of the industry, so they are trying to create a hurdle in that company. So that's why we need to take care about it whenever we are working in any one of the company. We want to stay away from these kinds of people who have the closed mind, who have the prejudices, and who don't want to change to themselves. Okay, then whenever we have also the one kind of lack of alertness, whenever we are one kind of passive listener, we are also not interested in any one of the concept that we are studying. Whenever we also feel one kind of bored or the monotonous, then it is going to create a problem in the flow of communication. So that's why it is expected that whenever we want to work in any one of the organization, so while working in any one of the organization here, we want to take care about that. We want to be always active listener. We want to be always enthusiastic. We always want to be excited. We always want to be interested. Okay, so this kind of things which are going to framework our mind, and whenever we are creating this kind of framework, so then automatically here we are going to do the improvement. We are going to also be considered as one of the good person where we are working in our coming future. Okay, so like the lack of alertness, how it is going to create one kind of hurdle in the flow of communication. We have also so many people are there who are impatient. They don't have the patience to listen to someone or to understand the message which is given to us by any one of the speaker. So whenever these kinds of persons, okay, they don't have one kind of patience, then they are also not able to understand what exactly the speaker is trying to tell them. Okay, here the process of encoding and decoding is not happening in a very proper way. So that's why it is going to create a one kind of hurdle in the flow of the communication. Then later on, if we have also the understanding level, so the lack of retention. This is a point related with our understanding level. As we know that we all of have the various kinds of understanding level. So whenever we are working in any one of the companies, so while working in any one of the company, here we found that here the employee they have a various kind of understanding level. So that kind of understanding level, it is also going to create one kind of hurdle in the flow of the communication. They don't have the maturity. Okay, they are not able to understand what are your thoughts and what are their thoughts. They are not trying to give us one kind of suggestion to us. Okay, so like this also, whenever we are also distracted by so many things in our day-to-day life, like that, if you are also sitting and if you are also listening, then the various kinds of thoughts which are coming in our mind, then at that time here, what is exactly happening? Our mind is distracted by that thought. Okay, so the distraction is also considered as one of the part of our life. We are distracted by so many things. Okay, we are distracted by the mobile. We are distracted by the TV. Okay, so this kind of distraction, it is also going to create a one kind of barrier in the flow of communication. So that's why we need to take care about it. Then the last point related with this kind of socio-psychological barrier. So that was the one kind of status barrier. So related with the status barrier, as we know that whenever we are going to work in any one of the company, so in that company there is a one kind of hierarchy. Some person are working on the upper level, some persons they are working on the lower level. Okay, some persons they are working on the middle level. So that kind of hierarchy, it is also going to create a that person is a superior, I am an inferior. Okay, so this kind of superiority and inferiority complex, it is going to create a one kind of hurdle in the flow of communication. Okay, it is a matter of a prestige. It is a matter of a one kind of superiority. It is a matter of attitude. It is a matter of one kind of ego for them. Okay, so then these kinds of people they are going to create a one kind of hurdle in the flow of communication, and at the same time their mind is not so opened. They have a one kind of closed mind. So is it clear to all of you? This kind of socio-psychological barrier, it is very important from our academic life, and at the same time it is also very important from our professional point of view. So did you understand this socio-psychological barrier? Yes, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you for your quick reply. Now can I move to the another slide that we can study the next barrier? Yes, can I start the next barrier?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Now
sir.
the next barrier, thank you. So now the next barrier that we are going to focus. So we can call to this barrier as the linguistics and the semantic barrier. So as I said you earlier, the knowledge of the linguistics really it is a very interesting kind of subject. And as we know in the linguistics here, we are going to study about the nature of the language, okay, the structure of the language, and how the meanings are created. Okay, so that's why linguistics is considered as one of the very interesting subject. When we try to say the word syntactic, 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 it is nothing but it is related with our structure. Okay, and whenever we try to speak about the word semantic, it is nothing but it is related with the meanings. First of all, keep it in the mind. If in the exam it is asked to you what is meant by linguistic barrier, what is meant by language barrier, what is meant by semantic barrier. So these all names are same. Don't be confused. It can happen that in your examiner, in your exam here the examiner he can give any one of the name to you. So at that time you need to keep it in mind that we want to just write about the language barrier or the linguistic barrier. Okay, so here the semantic, as we have discussed, that this is related with the meanings of the words. Okay, so whenever we are going to use the various kinds of words beyond our comprehension level, so at that time here one kind of semantic barrier is going to happen. And we also discussed about that what it means by synonyms. Synonyms are nothing but these are the words which we found which have the similarity in their meaning. Then we also discussed about what it means by homonyms. So homonyms are nothing but these are the various kinds of words. Okay, here the meaning of these words is different, but if we try to see the pronunciation of these words, so the pronunciation is the same. For example, I have put here the various kinds of examples in front of you in which the fair and the fair. Okay, then the next example was the night and the night, and the third was the sea and the sea. Okay, so whenever if any one of the word it is used by the speaker as a night, so it depends on the listener, it depends on the receiver. If for the speaker he wants to use the KNIGST, and if that is misunderstood by the receiver as NIGST, then it is going to create the confusion. Okay, so that's why we need to take care about it. Okay, so the language it is very flexible. So we want to take care about whenever we are using any one of the words, whenever we are also speaking any one of the sentence. Okay, so like the homonyms, we also discussed about that whenever we have the various kinds of allusions. Okay, so these kinds of allusions are nothing but these are the various kinds of incorrect forms of the corrections. Okay, for example, as we know that Australians are called as the kangaroos, then the British they are called as the Tommies. Okay, so then at that time, uh, because of this incorrect form of the expressions, how it is going to create the meaning. Then whenever we are also using the unfamiliar words in our day-to-day life, generally what happens that so many people they are thinking that whenever we are going to use the hard words, the difficult words, then we are going to impress the people. This is not the proper way to use the words. So that's why we want to take care that we are going to use some kinds of familiar words. We are going to use some kinds of easy words whenever we are going to do one kind of communication. So that's why that kind of unfamiliar words, where if it is used by the speaker, then whatever here exactly the speaker he wants to convey to the receiver, okay, they are unable to get it because of the various kinds of understanding level. Okay, here I also put examples to you. If I am using the words like the massive, ajar, okay, so these words are going to create the confusion. Then whenever we are going to present our emotions, we so at that time we want to take care that we are going to use that kind of exact or the accurate word. If we are in the mood of the joy, then we want to use that kind of exact word of the joy. Okay, so whenever we are also going to in the mood of fear and the excitement, so at that time we need to take care that we need to use that particular kind of word. Okay, so for example, whenever also the two speakers or when the two people they are meeting to each other and they don't know the one kind of common language, if one is belonging from the Maharashtra and if another is belonging from the Punjab, so at that time if they don't know any one of the common language, Hindi and the English, then how it is going to create a one kind of hurdle in the flow of communication. So that's why we should have the common language that here the speaker he should know, and at the same time here the receiver he should know. So whenever the different kinds of languages which are used by the sender as well as by the receiver, so at that time they are not able to understand it in a very proper way. So that's why they should know one of the common language, that is Hindi, English, Kannada, Tamil, Punjabi, any language. Okay. Then whenever we know that while doing our communication, we used to use the words. Okay. When we have the poor vocabulary, so at that time, because of that having a poor vocabulary, we are unable to use the words in our communication. We are unable to speak, so that's why we need to work on our vocabulary. Vocabulary is considered as one of the important part. Whenever you know the more and more words, then at that time here we are able to do the proper kind of communication. Also, like the poor vocabulary, whenever we don't have the proper kind of knowledge about the grammar, about the punctuations related with the grammar, we know that here the tenses, parts of speech, okay, what is meant by sentence, what are the various kinds of structures, how to use the articles, prepositions. So these are all the points which are considered as the basic of our grammar. Okay, so that's why we should have the proper kind of knowledge about the grammar, and at the same time we should have the proper kind of knowledge about the punctuations. Here I have put the two examples in front of you. Go, then later on the comma is given to us. Slow, men at work. Then the same example is given to us. Go, slow, with the comma, then men at work. Okay, so whenever we are changing the place of the comma in this example, so here we found that here how that changing of the place of the comma, it is going to create the two different meanings. Okay, so like the poor knowledge of the grammar and punctuation, we are also used habituated to use the different kind of accents. At present time, the industry is going to accept an American accent. Okay, so we should know the proper kind of knowledge about the how the Britishers they have their accent. At the same time, how here the American people they have their accent, Russian, Australian, at the same time Indian. So that using of the different kinds of accents, it is also going to create one kind of confusion in the mind of the speaker and the listener. Okay, so that's why we it is expected that we want to use a one kind of specialized kind of dictionary. As I said you earlier that we used to use the Oxford Dictionary and Advanced Cambridge Learners Dictionary. So these are the two dictionaries that we need to use, and the using of these two dictionaries is going to be very helpful to us. Then like this, so whenever we are using one kind of language, so the language for each profession, they have their own particular kind of language. If the lawyers are there, they are going to use some kinds of legal terms. If the doctors are there, then these kinds of doctors, they are also going to use the various kinds of medical terms. Okay, so that kind of using of the jargon, we want to take care whenever we, if whether we are belonging from the medical field, then we need to use the medical terms, medical concepts. Okay, and at the same time, as we know that whenever we are using a one kind of slang language in our day-to-day communication, so the slang language is nothing but it is considered as informal language. This is also not considered as one of the standard kind of language. So if you are using this kind of slang language, then how it is also going to create a one kind of misunderstanding between the speaker and the receiver. Then we have the last barrier in the flow of the communication. So we can call to this barrier as the cross-cultural barrier. So as for a moment, we consider that you have completed your graduation you have completed your post graduation, you have completed your PhD, and whenever you are going to start your own business, or whenever you want to work abroad, so at that time, the understanding of various kinds of culture is going to be very helpful to you. Already, we have the proper kind of knowledge about the Indian culture. So, like the Indian culture, whenever we want to start our own business in America, in England, so while starting our own business abroad, so at that time we should know about their culture, we should know about their habits, we should know about their traditions, we should know about their religion. So that's why this kind of cross cultural barrier is going to happen. So for each culture, for each nation, they are going to give one kind of importance to their nationality. So this kind of cross-cultural barrier is going to happen because of the different kinds of nationalities. Okay, the Russians, they are proud about their language. The Indians, they are proud about their language. Americans, they are also the proud about their language. So that kind of various kinds of nations, they have the different kinds of nationalities. At the same time, they have also the various kinds of religious background. We found in the world, we have the Christians, we have Muslims, we have Hindus. So that kind of having a various kinds of religious background, it is also going to create a one kind of cross-cultural barrier. Okay, so at the same time, whatever kind of value system we have, okay, so whatever is right in India, it can be also the wrong in Western countries. Whatever is right in the Western countries, it can be also the wrong in India. Okay, so that's why we have the various kinds of value system. Okay, especially in the India, we used to give the respect to our elder. Okay, okay, but on the contrary, in America, okay, whenever the youth they have completed their age of the 2018, they are going to start their own business. Okay, so this is the what kind of value system. We all have the various kind of value system. Okay, we all have the various kinds of customs and the traditions. Okay, like the customs and the traditions, we are also habituated to the various kinds of things in which we have the various kinds of foods, habits, and the literature. And in all this situation, we are also in the state of mind, we are also in the process of the liberalization. Okay, here the various kinds of companies, okay, which can come in India and they can start their business here. We can also go abroad or we can also start our own business. So this is the word of liberalization. Here we are able to do the free trading. Okay. So here this is the word of the globalization. So many new inventions are going to happen. So it is related whether it is related with the technology, whether it is related with any one of the C++ language, Java language, or any one of the new product, any one of the new equipment that is going to happen. So the globalization. And at the same time, this is the word of the multinationalization. Here, each country, they are trying to give the one kind of value to their nationality. Okay, we are also habituated by the hybrid culture. We are living in the India, but still we are also influenced by the Western culture. Okay, it can be related with our dressing sense or whether it can be also related with our food habits. We used to eat the Chinese. Why we are used to eat the Chinese? Because this is a one kind of impact. Okay, this is a one kind of impact of the multinationalism. Okay, so related with this cross-cultural barrier, there are the various kinds of points are there, and these points which are going to create a one kind of barrier in the flow of communication. So the point number four, that is the manner of the greeting. Especially whenever the people they are going to meet to each other in the Western countries. Here I have put one example to in front of you. Here the man and woman who know each other lightly kiss each other on the cheek as a form of greetings. So this is a form of greetings that we found in the Western countries. Okay. So on the contrary, if we found the people in India, as we know that the accepted form of greeting is matching the palms together when we say the Namaste or the Ram Ram in Marathi. So this is the form of saying the greetings, form of meeting to someone. Okay, so on the contrary, if we try to know how the people they are meeting to each other in the Japan, they are meeting to each other while bowing. Okay, so this kind of manner of greetings, we have the various kinds of manners of greeting. Whenever we are changing our nation, whenever we are changing our locations, we found some kind of drastic changes are there. Okay, so like the manner of greeting, also we have also the various kinds of dressing that we used to wear. There are not any kinds of rules related with that related with whatever kind of dress we want to wear. There are unspoken rules. Okay, so there are the unspoken rules related with the dressing. Whatever is acceptable in the India, it cannot be acceptable in Western, or whatever is acceptable in the Western countries, it cannot be acceptable in the India. Okay, so there are the unspoken rules for it. For example, in India, people used to are using the sari, and the tie, dhoti is also used. Okay, we are also influenced by the Western culture. Okay, so that kind of dressing sense also is going to create a one kind of cross cultural barrier. So like the dressing, we know that we have also the another point, that is a food. Okay, related with the food, what kind of food is eaten and how it is also eaten. Okay, they used to eat with fingers, with forks, with chopsticks. Especially whenever we used to go and visit in the Hyderabad. In Hyderabad, we know that how the people they are going to use the biryani. So how the food is eaten and what kind of food is eaten, it is also going to create a one kind of a barrier between the two nations, between the two states also. Okay, so like the dress, like the manner of the greeting, how the food, it is also going to create a one kind of barrier in the flow of communication. So the language is also one of the factor. Then we have the another point, that is the time. How the factor of the time, it is going to change from culture to culture. Okay, some persons they are giving the importance to the time. Relations are important than the time. Then for some countries, the time is important than the relations. Okay, for example, here I have put an example in front of you. If any one of Indian host, if he is inviting to any one of the American guests to pay his visit his house at any time, but this kind of any time, how it is also misunderstood by American guests, and then later on he is also not going uh, to give the visit to our home unless we are specifying the date and time to visit to that person. So that's why the concept of the time is changing from nation to nation. Some people they are giving the value to the relations, and some are giving the value to the time. And as we know that as the time, as we know the what kind of Indian time here we have. Okay, so then the next point that is related with the cross cultural barrier, that is a body language. So related with the body language, as we know that the Indian people they have a very free kind of body language, free body movement that Indian people they are doing. And on the contrary, if we try to know how here the Japanese people they have a very formal and the restricted body movements. Okay, so that kind of using the body language, it is also changing from location to location. It is also going to change from place to place. Okay, so Like the body language, we also the last term related with the cross-cultural barrier. This is also one of the reason. That is the space. Okay, if some person is trying to come and stand close near us, so that person is also considered as a overbearing at the road. Okay, if someone is also not coming and standing close towards you, then at that time you are also trying to consider that that person he is aloof and cold. Okay, so related with the space also there are the various kinds of thoughts. Whatever is accepted in India, it is also not accepted in Western countries, and whatever is accepted in the Western countries, it is not accepted in the India. So that kind of space, it is also going to create a one kind of hurdle in the flow of the communication. Okay, so the space of here, the concept of the space is it is related with whatever kind of respect here we are going to give to that person while doing our communication. Okay, so how the because of the body language, how because of the space, how it is going to create a one kind of barrier in the flow of communication. So in short, in our today's lecture, we have discussed about the barriers are nothing but these are the various kinds of impediments that are going to hamper the flow of the communication. Then we have discussed about how because of the physical or the environmental, why the physical or the environmental barrier it is going to happen. It is going to happen because of the external disturbances and the physical disabilities. And then we have studied about the mechanical barrier whenever we found one kind of defects in the machine, and how here we also want to increase the knowledge about handling the machines, and we should have the proper kind of machine literacy to increase our knowledge. Then we have studied a very interesting barrier. So that barrier was nothing but it was a socio-psychological barrier, and how the socio-psychological barrier is going to be very helpful to us in our academic life and at the same time in our professional life. Okay, whenever we are too much emotional, whenever we don't want to change, whenever our mind is closed, whenever various kinds of prejudices are there. Okay, emotions, lack of alertness, impatience, okay, lack of retention, distraction, then how the status barrier is going to happen. Then we have studied about the language barrier whenever we are using the allusions, unfamiliar words. Okay, whenever we don't know the common language. Okay, then at the same time, whenever we are using the various kinds of slang language, jargons in our day-to-day life, then how it is going to create one kind of barrier. And we have discussed about if we want to start our business abroad, then it is our work that we need to understand the culture of that particular nation and how that kind of cross-cultural barrier it is going to happen. And because of the different nationalities, because of the different kind of religious backgrounds, value system, then we have studied about the how it is going to happen because of the manner of greetings, then by the dress, by food, language, okay, then the time, body language, and the space. Okay, so this was all for our today's lecture. So in our coming lecture, we are going to deal with also one of the new interesting topic. So uh, now can I end our meeting? So thank you all of you and have a great day.
Thank you.